The Badger. What's going on, brother?
How we doing, man?
Good, man. How we doing?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yo, you got a grappling match coming up soon.
Yeah, for round 0 grappling, I believe it is. Yeah, I just got in touch with the guys like over the past week, and yeah, they hooked me up with a solid super fight. So submission match. Yeah.
Is it submission only?
In what sense? Like, is it like roll to the death or?
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a time limit. I'm not 100% on like the rule set yet.
Okay.
But yeah, man, it's just good to be back.
Yeah, man. So did you put this in place because that fight that you were gonna take the guy had pulled out?
No, like recent events, like I'm kind of just getting back to my roots and getting back to like the whole competing and being on the mat all the time, and so kind of like I'm just looking to compete. So I was talking to even Coach James about rolling in October down in Philly, and a buddy of mine from Gracie, New Jersey, Rich Petishnock, who's going to compete on the same event September 16th, he kind of suggested to me, like, hey, do you want to do this? And I just told him, yeah. And then, like, 3 days later, I had a matchup.
How do you think you'll compete against this guy? You think you'll kill him?
He's tough, man. He's a 10th planet brown belt. He's been on the circuit for a while. You know, I believe he fought MMA, amateur level, and then he kind of just shifted over to just purely grappling.
Okay.
So he's more of a sport jits guy. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a chess battle.
So how about you, man? How did you get into this whole, like, fighter, warrior lifestyle that you're living?
It was kind of crazy. Like, I grew up wrestling. I started wrestling in 4th grade, wrestled for Pittston area, and I wanted to wrestle in college, man. I loved it. Like, I was absolutely enamored by wrestling. So I went to Lock Haven. I wrestled there for 2 years, and then I ended up leaving the team. Me and my coach really didn't get along.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so some time went by, I kind of stepped off the mats, and I was working at a Vitamin World down near, like, Williamsport. And the guy that worked in the shop next to me was talking about jiu-jitsu and all this other stuff. And he's like, oh, you're like, you know how to wrestle. He's like, why don't you come down and maybe show the guys some stuff or, you know, at least see what it's like. So I went down, and we wrestled on, like, a Tuesday, I think it was. And I didn't, like, kill everybody, but, I mean, I was definitely the best wrestler on the mat. So, like, they said, you know, why don't you come back on Wednesday? It's jiu-jitsu. So it was just a funny story, and it was more so my ego that led me to doing this. But I went back on Wednesday, and I was going against my who's a good friend of mine now, John Flock. He was a professional fighter. Yeah. And I just remember I took him down, and the next thing I knew, I was sleeping. So he put me in a triangle choke and just strangled me until I was out. And that kind of, like, in my mind, I was like, I can't let that happen again. So I stuck around.
So on that, like, the topic of the ego, do you think that that's something that's, like, useful, like, very helpful for a fighter, or do you think it could be, like, poisonous?
It has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely good to be, like, confident but not cocky in that sense. Like, everybody gets humbled at one point or another.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the mats, it's in the cage, it's in the ring. You know, there's always somebody out there that's going to have your number.
Yeah.
So to have that ego, I mean, one day, you know, at some point it's going to get crushed, and you're going to have to deal with that as a fighter and as a person.
How important is that for the ego to get crushed in a fighter? Because I actually hear a lot of fighters talk about that. Like, after their ego crumbles, it, like, kind of opens up a whole new chapter in their fight career. Yeah,
I think the death of your ego is probably something that every fighter should probably experience, you know, whether it happens sooner or later in your career. I think that it makes you look at the game differently, and it make you look at yourself differently.
That's interesting. I always hear people talk about, like, ego death, specifically with psychedelics.
Yeah.
They say they have some crazy trip and their sense of self diminishes in a way. And I always was curious of, like, what it's like after that. Because I think I have a pretty solid ego. Yeah. But I think, like, an ego is beneficial to an extent, because if we have an ego, like, we can work to prove ourselves right. Yeah. 'Cause a lot of times, like, the ego of a man is like, you know, I'm big and bad and I'm capable. And, you know, sometimes as you probably know, like, there's people who think they could fight, and then they go into a fighting gym, and the narrative is a bit different.
Yeah, and that happens often. I know guys that, you know, they can knock almost anybody out on the street, and they're just tough guys. They're big, burly guys, but you put them with someone who knows technically how to fight. Yeah, that's a different story.
So have you ever been in a situation where you already have developed your skills as a fighter, as a grappler, where you had to actually use this in like a actual situation that you could talk about legally?
Yeah. My first bartending gig, actually, I was working there for a while, and at one point I stepped away. I think I was bartending somewhere else, but they had a big event going on. I think it was a bar crawl, and it was a college bar. It was down where I went to college, and yeah, I went down, and it was all girls bartending, and then me, which, I mean, you know, whatever. And they had bouncers there because that's how I started bartending. I was a bouncer, and then I kind of shifted behind the bar, and so I was down there working, and one of the girls kept coming down and kept saying, "Hey, this guy keeps coming behind the bar. He's like, you know, he's trying to pour his own beer and this and that." So like after like the third time, I was like, all right, let me go check it out. So I walked down there, and it was just like 5'8", like 240-pound kid, and he wasn't a hefty boy. He was pretty built. So
Okay.
Come to find out, long story short, it was a kid I was wrestling I had wrestled in high school.
Oh, wow.
At one point, I went to Central Mountain High School, which is down where Lock Haven is. But this is years after. So I told him, you know, you have to get out, and kind of just was removing him, and he started pointing his finger and this and that and walking backward out of the bar. So like, you know, I got him out to the lobby, and one of the other female bartenders was in front of us, like trying to negate anything, and this kid did like a 180, like he was gonna leave, and then he swung back around, and he threw an overhand right, and he smacked this girl's hand because she threw her hands up in the air like this, and he had smacked her in the fingertips, which kind of smacked me in the head. And then
I remember you told Rossi this story.
Yeah, his punch kind of grazed me on the side of the head, and I just remember like I went down, and the next thing I knew, I came up, and this is probably like 2 months into me training. I came back up, and I hit him with the stiffest right I'd ever thrown in my life, and just absolutely floored the kid.
Oh man!
So this is before I was licensed as a fighter in the state of Pennsylvania, just for clarification. But yeah, this was like a couple months into training, so I kind of had that technical aspect, or I had like, you know, I had been sparring, and I'd been in like fight-like altercations in practice. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm used to that.
Right.
So, you know, when he threw that, next thing I knew, I just kind of dipped my head and came back with a counter right.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah.
Put it to him.
Just put it on him. And that ended up turning into a whole thing, because when he fell, where I was bartending used to be like an old hotel. So there was like, it was just a crappy place, man. But there was like little jagged pieces of metal hanging off like the wall, like just from like the structure and everything. And when he fell, he smacked his arm off of it, and it put like a gash in his arm. So they thought that I stabbed him. So they were looking for like the security footage and all this other stuff. But, you know, it never became anything. And I kind of messaged the girlfriend because she thought I'd stabbed him. And I was like, listen, like, I'm not about that. Like, I'm not going to stab him. I was trying to remove him from the bar, and like he kind of just, you know, decided to act accordingly. Yeah. So
it's a tough scene to work in, that bartending scene. How long were you doing that for?
Man, I bartended from the time I was 19 until about 29. It's like 10 years.
Yeah. I actually know a lot of bartenders that work here in the Woodlands, and they tell me crazy stories like that all the time. Like about that, you know, that one Tyler guy.
Yeah, Tyler from Bad Company Jiu-Jitsu works here. He does security here.
Yeah. So
yeah, and he has some crazy stories that I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about, to tell you the truth.
To be honest.
Alcohol brings out the worst in people, and then you know, you mix it with other people, or bad tempers, or mental health issues, or God knows what. But, you know, it's you see a lot over the time. Like, you know, even people that I knew to be regulars that were calm and cool, collected, I could see them 50 times, and maybe one time out of the 50 times they would just wild out.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, alcohol brings out a lot in people.
Oh yeah, and you got to deal with a lot of crazy regulars too, like people that are in here all the time that you can't technically do anything about because they're not crossing that line, but they're like approaching it. And it's a weird environment, especially when you have a lot of female bartenders. Like here especially, there's not a lot of male bartenders at all. And on like the weekend nights when it gets real crazy here.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just people like to drink and act like crazy. I don't know.
Here's one of the wildest areas. But
what was the transition like from you're done wrestling into, okay, now I'm going to decide to lock myself in a cage and fight another man?
Bro, like honestly, I never wanted to fight. I had teammates that drove out to Ohio at one point when I was wrestling for Lock Haven, and they had fought amateur fights, and that was, that was cool. And then one of my roommates wanted to go and check it out and try it out. And I was like, man, you're crazy. Like, I'm not getting punched in the face. I'm not doing all that stuff. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I left the team. I left school for a semester. I ended up transferring schools. And like I said, I was working in a mall, and this kid kind of approached me. And, I never, even the second I walked in the MMA gym, I never had any intentions of taking a fight or doing anything like that. So it was kind of like, it just steamrolled. Like, I trained for like 2 or 3 months, and then the one dude was like, oh, yeah, we got you a fight in February. And this was like 2012, I think.
Yeah. Damn, they just told you got to have a fight?
He's like, yeah, we can get you this fight if you want to fight. And
okay.
Like, where's it at? And they're like, oh, it's at the Woodlands in Wilkes-Barre, which is crazy because it's,
we're here. Shout out to the Woodlands, by the way, for allowing us to be here.
It's just funny because we're literally like maybe 100 feet from where I had my first fight. And
how did that one go? Like, how did that fight go for you?
Oh man, so yeah, that was fun. So I ended up fighting a childhood friend.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Kid named Sean Oliveri. Shout out to him. Great guy. But he had moved away from school at some point, like 4th or 5th grade, and transferred out to like Old Forge. And I went to Pittston. But like growing up, we'd be playing football in like my yard, and we'd be running around riding bikes and doing all types of fun stuff. So, but he actually had gotten into fighting, and so let's say I started training like November of 2011. He had fought his first amateur fight on a card up at the CYC in Scranton, and a couple buddies of mine that were on the team with me, and then a couple other guys I knew from the area were fighting on there. So I ended up going to the fights, and I saw him win his first fight, and I was like, oh my God, this kid's tough, like this and that. Yeah. So pretty much, the matchmaker had been looking for fights for me, and like 2 or 3 people fell out, and he's like, oh, well, this guy fell out. And it was Sean. So tricky little thing, and promoters love to do this kind of crap, but I was like, oh, it's my buddy. I don't want to fight him. And he's like, oh, well, he said he'd fight you.
Yeah, trying to stir the pot up.
And there's the ego. There's the ego once again. Yeah. So then on the other end, Sean saying the same thing. That's my buddy. I don't really want to fight him. He goes, oh, well.
He said he'd fight you.
He said he'd fight you. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's kind of how my first MMA fight came to be. And, yeah, it was crazy. Me and Sean kind of went back and forth at it. He's more of a striker, so and I knew that. I wasn't getting knocked out, so I just took him down in the beginning of every round and just held him down and just beat him in the ribs until the period was over, the round was over. And I just smothered him like a blanket. I only had 3 months experience. I didn't really know how to strike like that.
Yeah.
My jiu-jitsu wasn't really solid like that yet, so yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And after I won that fight, that was like one of the craziest things. I don't know if there was like a bus tour or something, but I got out of the cage and there was a bunch of little kids and they wanted to sign their T-shirt. And,
oh, that's cool, man.
And I kind of just fell in love with it. And then my amateur career was pretty crazy because I fought my first fight in February. I fought my second fight on St. Patty's Day.
Oh, okay.
March, so like in March, the next month. And then I had my third fight against a tough jiu-jitsu guy from the Scranton area. And that was in May.
Oh,
so
wow.
This is my third amateur fight now. We're talking something like 3 months.
Damn.
And then I fought again here at the Woodlands. I fought a guy at 205 for my 4th amateur fight.
Oh, my God.
And that was in August. And then by November, I think it was almost to the day like I started training, I had my first title fight.
That's insane.
First week in November.
So what were those? Were you going through like camps for each of those fights, I'd imagine? Like,
yes and no. I was just staying in really good shape.
Okay.
I didn't really have any like serious injuries or take any serious damage in any of my fights prior, so I was able to kind of just rebound back and just get in the gym and stay consistent. It wasn't really about like doing camps for me at that point. It was more so just like get in, learn, train, stay in shape, and like at that point now I had fallen in love with it. Yeah. So it was easy for me to go to the gym all day, every day. And then on top of bartending and just going to school, I had all this extra time. So I was like, I'm going to dive into it.
After that first fight and that first win, when you said you were in the cage and all these kids were asking you to sign things for them, did you know then that this is something that you wanted to continue to do for a while, or is that something that came later on?
No, I think at that point, after, I got my hand raised and like I said, there was like people asking me to sign stuff for them. They're like, oh my God, bro, that was so cool. Like, I think that was the turning point for me. I was like, oh man, this is cool. So.
Is that where you saw your life going? Like when you were a high school wrestler, did you think I was going to the Olympics, or did you think I were going to get some cool job, or what did you think you were going to do?
If if you would ask high school me, I wanted to be physical therapist, so that was kind of like where I was headed. But at the same time, when I left for college, I just wanted to wrestle. I didn't care about anything else, and that was probably my biggest downfall because I wasn't mature in that way to know that, like, there's a life after wrestling. And then I go through my fighting career, and you think, all right, well, I got it right because there's no life after wrestling. I figured this out, and then I go 10 years of fighting and without like really a solid game plan for afterwards. So like these past couple of years, I've kind of learned that, there's more to it than just the career in itself, and it's a short-lived career.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a very glorious career. It's filled with the highest highs and the lowest lows, but at the same time, it's not that long. You're not going to be fighting until you're 45, 50, 60 years old. You can't live off of that.
It is a sad reality about fighting, but you see a lot of people going through that in today's day and age. Like with the UFC, you got people fighting until they're like mid to late 40s. Like how do you feel about that?
That takes a special person.
Yeah,
that's a 1 in 100,000 kind of person that can do that. Those are genetic freaks, guys that have never had any serious injuries.
Yeah.
They've taken care, and you have to take care of yourself, and that's one thing that I preach to the guys down the gym now. Is like, I've been doing this for a little bit.
Yeah.
And by a little bit, I mean a decade. And then on top of that, wrestling, like, I always thought I was invincible. And like, you hear older people tell kids this all the time. When you think you're invincible, you're going to get sore, you're going to get this.
Yeah.
And it does happen. And, I might have been in one of the better shapes of most people that I know. And, and at the end of the day, like, your body does start to deteriorate and break down. So people don't, you have to watch what you eat and take care of just yourself.
It definitely takes a freak like lifestyle, I guess. But you see, it was Glover Teixeira. He became the light heavyweight champion at 42, I believe he was when he won that fight.
Early 40s.
Still hanging with these young guys like that always kind of blew my mind. But there's a lot of people like that. Do you got your eye on any, like, do you like or do you enjoy watching UFC or anything like that?
I'm a weird man. Like, I don't really watch sports. I'd rather just play them.
Okay.
I'm the same way, actually.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, I don't really have a favorite football team.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't tell you who won the World Series. It's not that I hate them. I just hate how much people get. There's a certain like political standpoint behind sports that like I can't stand how people get so overhyped about something that really has nothing to do with them at all. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like
they'll get really frustrated and they'll get so invested in some like the colors that these teams wears and
like football. Football is like probably the easiest one to relate to because you see people getting in these huge arguments and fights over football teams, and it's like those people don't
owe you or care about you.
Yeah, like
that's a good point.
Like, and you got people getting like tearing down families, and it blows my mind that people get so enamored over this kind of stuff, and it's like.
I agree. That's how I was when I played football too. I didn't really know what was going on in the NFL really, and then I like UFC though, but I also like to train MMA and train jiu-jitsu and stuff like that.
So just like immerse yourself in
I have to get into it or else I'm not really interested in it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, so at this point, like, I've been around. Like, I know guys that are in the UFC. I know guys that are, like, coming up. They're on Contender Series. And that's, now it's more fun for me to kind of watch it because I know these guys personally. Like, I've had chances to train with, like, Corey Anderson. We were talking about him. Great guy, tough guy. And, he was in the UFC, won the Ultimate Fighter, left the UFC, was Bellator, title run, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's cool to watch. Like, that kind of stuff is cool to watch. Or, like, my teammate Mickey Gall, like, he called out CM Punk and got into the UFC, and then he ends up beating the crap out of him, and then he just keeps going. He went on a roll, you know what I mean? And, like, that's one of my best friends. So it's really neat to see how – like these guys are coming up and they're finally getting their shot and all that stuff. And it's kind of lighting a fire under my ass because I want to I want to give it another run.
So when was the last time you competed or you fought?
November of 2019.
So like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Just about.
And so what was going on in those 3 years that kept you out of that type of environment? Or maybe the mindset rather.
It wasn't necessarily the mindset. So with that, I had, in that fight, I had like a weird injury. My finger got cut somehow.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
They had to stop the fight. That kid ends up fighting another fight and goes to the UFC. So like, it just drove me nuts. But
wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, no, I suffered like an injury. Pretty much the referee, the doctor stopped it, and then, I took some time off, and then by March, I think, well, by February, COVID was kind of like, they're like, And then by March, they had shut everything down. So now everybody's shut down. Everyone's hanging out. Everyone's doing whatever. So that was obviously some time off, and that lasted like a year and a half. And then I found out that I had like a little bit of an injury, like an underlying injury that was kind of bugging me. So I was training during COVID. I was still working out and everything. But over the time of just the years of me doing this stuff, like, once again, from not taking care of my body, just think I was invincible. I found out that like I had like a bit of a neck injury, and it was this and that. So like, suggested to never fight again. I should this and that. So it's like, it's a bit of a roadblock, and it kind of really killed me. Like, a part of me died when I found that out.
Yeah.
But I've been taking care of it, and now I think, I've been rolling with it and sparring and doing all this other stuff, and obviously it hasn't been super heavy impact, but I feel good enough to at least go get it looked at and like really try to give this another shot.
You just got your brown belt too.
And I just got my brown belt.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, congrats,
That's
man.
badass.
That is badass.
So
how long you been doing jiu-jitsu?
Since I started MMA, so November of
about 10 years.
Yeah, about that.
Wow.
So I bounced around from different schools. I think I've been with David Adiv at Gracie, New Jersey since 2015 or 2016. So just an unbelievable instructor, and he's like a second father to most of us. He has like he has the answers that aren't the most direct line to the answer, but it's always some sensible thing. And he just has a way of explaining stuff to you and kind of like calming you and making you feel good before a fight. And like he just he does things that a lot of coaches can't provide for fighters.
I see, yeah, because it seems like fighters as athletes are so much different than other athletes. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they told me they met a MMA guy, and I saw the MMA guy before. He actually works here. And for some reason, I feel like I knew he was a fighter just by the way he carried himself and just by his demeanor in a way. And I feel like there's no other athlete that's really like that. Like, I think what fighters possess in like a warrior spirit is a very real thing. Yeah.
And it's funny because you have the Conor McGregors and you have the Sean O'Malley's and the guys that are very flamboyant and they want to like, be in the media and this and that. But for the most part, most fighters are guys that I know that do martial arts. They're disciplined. That's what martial arts is about, is having that discipline and having the ability to control your emotions and control yourself and not be flying off the handle. And then once again, back to that ego death, you get humbled once or twice. Like, you're not out like, oh, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to beat the crap out of this guy. Like, you might hype yourself up in a fight camp and whatever. But like, for the most part, most fighters I know, they're pretty quiet people.
Yeah.
What do you think about those loud fighters kind of like making that their identity? How do you feel about like the Conor McGregors and like the Nate Diaz's and people like that have to make a name for, not necessarily only, it's not their only avenue, but they make a big name for themselves by talking, being very flashy, being very like hateful towards other fighters and stuff. What do you think about that?
Do they make money?
A lot of it.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot more than regular fighters these days.
A lot of it.
But what do you think that is? Do you think that that's just like the generation we live in, where people just much rather see kind of people bashing each other all over the media, or like, what do you think that is?
Yeah, because it gives people something to talk about.
Yeah.
It's pop culture. People want to be able to talk about what's in the media and whatnot. If all the fighters are quiet and they just get ready for their fights and then they have the fights, all right, you can announce the results. Oh, there was a crazy knockout. That's cool. But then you have no lead up. You have there's no way to sell it. So now we live in a world where you have to sell everything.
Yeah.
You have to sell. You have to sell yourself. You have to sell the fight. You have to sell the promotion. You have to sell the fight gear. You have to sell your podcast. All of it. You have to, everything has to be sold. So it's for those guys that can make it work, good for them. But it also takes a special person to be able to back up everything you're saying. And that's why Mystic Mac was so popular with everyone because, I'm going to knock him out in the second and then boom.
Same with Muhammad Ali. He used to predict it, like what round he would finish people and stuff like that.
People love that stuff.
Yeah.
Man. People just love to talk about that kind of stuff,
I think also like fighting is very primal in a way. And it's something that as humans we're naturally drawn to. I think I heard Dana White say something along the lines of, if there was a fight in this corner, a football game in this corner, a soccer game in this corner, and people playing golf in this corner, everybody's going to gravitate towards the fight because it's just the most entertaining thing. It's the most primal thing to watch and to do. I think that's pretty cool. And so, like, I think they're also playing on
Interesting.
playing on like attention as a commodity, you know.
But it's interesting about that how like we're talking about like the flashiness of fighters, and you don't really see that in many other sports. So how come like
Yeah, you do football. I mean, look at like the Odell Beckhams. And
there's a lot
shit
of
that.
like shit talking, but I think it's definitely most prevalent in fighting, which is weird that it's also the most entertaining sport to watch. You would think you wouldn't need that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's also one of the only sports where you're driving a lot of revenue off of like pay-per-view. Not a lot of other sports do that either.
Yeah. Well, fight is like the ultimate, like, if you and I are arguing and I'm saying, I'm going to fuck you up, and you're saying, you're going to fuck me up. And then
lock them in a cage and watch them do battle. So that's why I think it's so big when guys talk smack as far as fighting goes or combat sports, because at the end of the day, it's not like you said, you mentioned Odell Beckham, all right, or whoever. You know, he can talk all the smack against your team, but never come face to face with the person that he's talking smack on. You know what I mean? It can really never happen throughout an entire football game. If I tell you that I'm going to kick your ass, like, you know, I'm sorry, apologies for that.
No, that's all right.
Oh, no, you're good,
man.
No, that's fine.
But if I tell you that I'm going to, like, beat you up, you know, at the end of the day, we're locked in a cage.
Yeah.
That's
you have to see
one winner, one loser.
Mano y mano. That's
That is crazy. But, one thing I'm really interested in, too, is, like, what is life like knowing in a few months or in due time you're going to be in a cage with another man going to war? Like, what is like leading up to that? Like, that must be a crazy way of living, sleeping. Like, it just must be insane.
Yeah, you have to kind of really become enveloped in it. Like, you really can't sit back and, like, get away from the idea that there's another person out there training to try to hurt you. You know what I mean? So, like, it weighs on you, and it is a very anxiety-driven camp for some people. But I don't know. It's weird. You know, I kind of rest easy because I just work hard and I leave it all out there. So I trust my body. I trust what I know. And don't get me wrong, I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified half the time beforehand. Yeah, I know. Like, I know what I'm doing, but really, like, the worst part is probably the week of. Because you sit back and you dial in and you're like, do I really know how to fight? Like, do I know what I'm like? You know, almost have like a brain fart, and it's just it's a crazy feeling. But then right before you make that walk, I would imagine, like, I compare it to probably what people feel right before they jump out of an airplane.
Oh, wow.
You know, I'm not really. I probably would never jump out of an airplane if it was up to me. But yeah, like, you're happy, you're sad, you're scared.
It's like all the emotions.
Everything just kind of floods in. And then for me, like, I make that walk down and you're still nervous. And then you get in and I hear that cage door, like, kind of clink. Yeah. And then all of that turns off. It's just like, it's just autopilot. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's interesting.
You know, you have a ton of adrenaline, and it's something that you really can't explain to someone that, like, has never done it.
Yeah.
Like, the adrenaline you feel, how, like, you know, you're watching these fights and you hear these big thuds and you're seeing dudes get rocked with shots and you're like, oh my God, like, that's insane. How's he still up? But, like, the adrenaline kind of shuts some of that off. Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's the fight or flight response, and there's no flight at that point. That's what I'm talking about, like that cage door closing. Like, there goes your flight. I mean, you could always still get out of it if you really wanted to, but at that point now, what do you look like in front of everyone?
I wonder if anybody's ever done that.
I'm sure they have. I mean, you ever see the one dude that walked out for the boxing fight?
I did, I saw that.
The bell rang and then he got out and walked away.
Wow. No, actually, I don't think I've seen that. That's insane, man. That's what I was going to ask you, though. Have you found any, like, kind of like mind or body hack to, like, help yourself decompress, like, from that, like, that feeling of anxiety?
No, I think it's just been the experience that I've had doing it all. You know, I'm always going to get nervous, and I'm always going to be, and, like, that's the thing. If you're not nervous beforehand and you're not feeling that, that's a problem.
Yeah, you're probably crazy as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good a possibility that you're crazy, or just that, like, you're not really in tune with it, or you're not, like, you're not in, you know, most things that you care heavily about, you're going to get nervous about.
Oh, yeah.
About how it goes. So it's like, if you don't, you know, for some people, they could shut it off. They shut it off and they just show up and do their job. But, you know, you kind of have to live in the chaos as a fighter. It's just part of being a fighter. You have to live with the emotions, and you got to live with all the feelings and the fear and the nerves and all the other stuff, because that's what drives you to not allow yourself to fail.
And a big part of your sport is like working out and recovery and stuff like that. So I would imagine that that's very beneficial for you and unwinding and whatnot.
Yeah. I didn't really get into the recovery aspect until I became a pro.
Yeah.
And it is super beneficial. Work hard, rest hard. That's definitely like, there's some truth in that saying. You know, you got to take care of your body. So, you know, I've done cryotherapy.
Really?
Infrared saunas. I've done a couple different things, massages all the time, going to see a chiropractor, like yoga, just everything. And it's definitely beneficial, especially as a fighter.
Yeah.
You're banging yourself up as heavily as most guys do. And like, you know, I came up not in a very bad time for it, but guys were still having these crazy hard practices, and they're going to sparring, and they're having these insane sparring matches. And it's like, as a fighter, especially as an amateur, and I wish I had known better, because I really didn't have the striking for that. So I was a human punching bag for quite a while, and you know, that stuff takes its toll on you. So it's like, you don't have to go and learn the sport. Obviously, there's got to be times where you go hard and you have to really test what you can do, but it doesn't have to be all the time. And it gets to the point where guys are doing it every week. It's almost like maxing out your bench every week or twice a week. Like, there's no point to it. You know what I mean?
It can't be good for you.
You're only going to hurt yourself. So it's like, you know, you have to have a calculated game plan now as a fighter. Otherwise, your career is going to be short-lived.
Yeah. So what is, like, I guess your kind of philosophy on that? Because you got, like, you were just talking about like people that just go in there and bash each other's faces, and you got like the Sean Stricklands that talk about like hard, heavy sparring every single day, and then you got like people like Max Holloway, who actually he is openly spoken about not sparring at all. He likes to really not hit at all during like camp and whatnot. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's good to keep a balance, or do you think it's good to lean more one way or the other?
I think, once again, I'm going to say, like, I don't think heavy, hard sparring is a bad thing, but I think it's something that you treat like maxing out your bench.
Yeah.
Like, more so, you should really just kind of be trying to improve your skills and maybe go 60%, 70%. You know, there's no need to go to sparring, be bloodying up your partners, because now you're hurting your team on top of it. You know, this is not a sport that you can do by yourself. You can't just train by yourself and get better.
Yeah.
There's things you can do as an individual, solo, that will make you better, but you need a team. You have to have good teammates. So for you know, that's like going to a daycare and then breaking all the toys and wondering why you have nothing to play with. So you have to like take care of yourself. You have to take care of your team, and that's all part of like the sport. That's what makes it very difficult, because it's a very selfish sport. It's a very me sport. But at the end of the day, it's a very, like, you have to have good people around you for that. So like, hard sparring is good, but it should be treated more so as like maxing out, or just like,
Have you ever ran into a guy in the gym that, like, say he took it a little bit too far? Like, I hear stories all the time about people going in and expecting to just be training and whatnot, and then the guy that they're up against is trying to take your head off. Or like they're taking it a little too hard with submissions and going after taps and stuff like that. Have you ever dealt with a guy like that?
Yeah, so I mean, you get that almost in every gym. There's always someone that wants to like really push the limits of like who's gonna allow them to do whatever. But, you know, I try to gravitate from those guys. Now, there's been points where we've gone to like team sparring and we're cross training, and like you get in there and like, I remember one time I was down in Stroudsburg, and another guy that was my weight, and it was funny because actually the first time I met him was after my first fight here. He had a title fight, but we were sparring, and I just remember, like, we never sparred with knees or elbows or anything like that. Me and him are in the cage, and I clinched up with him, and he ripped a knee right down the center and nailed me right in the sternum. And I was like, good God, like, knocked the wind out of me, and just pissed me off on top of everything else. And then me and that kid ended up having this long history, and he had said some crazy stuff over the internet. And to this day, I'd probably slap the teeth out of him if I saw him. But
and he's the same weight as you?
Not anymore. He's a little chubby now.
I was about to say, let's set it up. Go Getters fight promotion.
Yeah, fight promotion.
Let's get it going.
But I mean, in a sport where you're already fighting, like, how do you handle people like that? Because it's not as simple as, oh, let's just go outside and fight. I mean, you're already fighting. So how do you really like handle people like that?
Yeah, it becomes difficult. I mean, at the end of the day, you could always just go in the gym and really have at it, or you can line the fight up, which at one point he was trying to do. After he came to my gym for like 3-4 weeks, after we hadn't seen him, came and cross-trained with us, sparred with me and everything, and then tried to call me out for a fight on some like garbage stuff. It's just some real scummy shit.
Have you ever had like a fight set up with somebody you had like real bad blood against?
No. Yes. There was this dude that I had fought. His name was Adam Attia. just a piece of shit, dude. Anyways, yeah, he was like the Bethlehem hometown favorite as an amateur.
Oh, okay.
He was like 5-0, and he was this big deal or whatever. You sell all these tickets, and the first time I fought him, he was like one of those show guys. He was very showy. He'd come in, he'd have a cigar, he'd have like a leopard Speedo he'd fight in. Like, he was just very showy. He got very into like, oh, I'm the hometown guy, and now I'm going to run with it. Very WWE-esque. But, yeah, I fought him the first time, and I beat him, and it was a split decision. And realistically, the dude, like, he's this big, bulky dude, didn't even make the weight. And I beat him, but I just like kind of out wrestled him, jammed him up against the cage. I was landing shots, but he was like just hanging on to me for dear life. So it went to split decision, and he started running his mouth on the internet and this and that. So I contacted the fight promoter. I said, run it back. Run it back. He realized, didn't think I beat him. Like, let's run it back. So the first fight had happened in March of 2013, I want to say, and then the second fight happened in October of 2013. And in that time period, I had fought one other fight. I took my first loss as an amateur, which is crazy. Same thing. I lost a split decision, tough guy. And then I came back and I ended up fighting this big buffoon. And I had a chip on my shoulder because I had just lost my first amateur fight. So I was training hard. And now they changed the rules over at this point to advanced. There's an advanced amateur rule set where you can ground and pound the face, no elbows, but you can ground and pound to the face on the ground and no shin guards. And I remember I got in there, dude, and I just whooped this dude's ass for 10 straight minutes. Like, it was 3 3-minute rounds.
Dope.
Yeah, so I just mopped the floor with him in his hometown once again.
Oh, wow.
And beat him 30-27 across the board. I didn't finish him, but I just took it to him, dude. Slammed him on his face. Was landing hard, heavy leg kicks. Like, dude, at one point I threw a spinning wheel kick that kind of hit him in the head, but that wasn't legal, so I pulled it. But it still smacked him in the face. It was what it was. But yeah, at that point, I didn't like him. So even at the weigh-ins, he was like looking at me. He didn't make weight yet again. I was like, oh, you're not going to make weight? And he kind of said, turned around, I was like, I couldn't even understand. Dude, he literally sounded like he was eating a sandwich at all times. Like, talking like that. It was crazy.
Sandwich.
But he had said something, and me and him kind of started arguing at the weigh-ins and everything. I was like, all right, cool. Like, you'll see. And this wasn't like another dude. Like, so at this point, I think the first time I fought him, I was turning 22 the next day or something like that. Yeah, 21 or 22. So then it's a couple months later. Now, this dude was like in 8th grade when I was born.
So he's that much older than you.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was that old, but he was like, I want to say I was in 4th grade when he graduated. He's like 8 years older than me. So like, this is like a grown man now. Not even a grown man, but I'm like 21, 22. He's like 29 or 30.
Yeah.
And he's like sitting here talking smack to me. And like, I almost found like just the comedic aspect of it, because it was just like, bro, you're
talking to a young kid.
You're like a grown man.
Yeah.
You're literally a grown man, and you're trying to talk all this smack to me. And it was just, you know, he really, I don't know if he's trying to sell the fight or if that, like, if he's just maybe like on this, you know, a little bit off or whatever the case was. But that was the only person I've ever had beef with. Every other person I've ever fought, ever, is awesome.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's crazy how you can fight somebody for 25 minutes and really
I always
like the
wondered.
person.
It's respect.
Yeah.
It's respect, because at the end, and most fighters, like, for the most part, I do have respect for, because at the end of the day, it takes a special person to climb in there and really go through that. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Like, you can literally be awake 1 minute on the highest high, and then next thing you know, you're getting stretched out. So it's like, you have to respect that. And then for the people that I go to war with, it's kind of like, word. Like, you know, I know how hard I train, and I know you're training. Like, it's just, there's just mutual respect. Now, some people ruin that. Yeah. In a sense, but no, every other person that I fought, like, I would help them out any day. Any day.
That's dope, man. I always wondered how, like, to bring him up again, that Glover Teixeira fight, when he fought Youre recently, like, both of these guys' faces are, like, destroyed. They're gushing blood, and at the end of the day, they could still go right up to each other after the fight, the moment the bell rings, and give each other a big hug. I always wondered how the hell that happened in people. Because there was still, like, I played football a lot. I never was really a fighter or anything like that. But there was always still a whole lot of animosity towards, like, another team once you had finished a game. At least that's just what it felt like back then. So that's why I was always curious as to how that happened with fighters. But I guess there is just a lot more respect there.
It's the culture, man.
Yeah.
That's the culture of America, though, too. That, you know, very like separated by teams.
Yeah.
And just, you know, I'm going to ride for my team and that's it. Like screw everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, it's kind of just the culture in it. Like you got to respect anyone that, like I said, that fights, that puts the time in, because this doesn't happen overnight for most people.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't, you know, me, like the way my amateur career took off, that does not happen for most people.
Yeah.
It does not work that way. You get guys that have maybe these extensive backgrounds that know stuff. Like I had an extensive wrestling background.
Yeah.
You got guys like Davey Morgan. He took off pretty quick because he had an extensive wrestling background. Like there's guys that know stuff. Richie Gates is another one. He was doing jiu-jitsu before MMA fighting was like a thing. Yeah. He goes out and now he's submitting everybody. Like you have to respect people for putting time into their craft and then being able to use it on you. So like, yeah, a dude could beat you up and break your nose and bloody your face and do all this, but at the end of the day, you got to respect that they were able to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is there any like one martial art over others that you favor more than the rest? Wrestling for sure.
I think wrestling is superior to other martial arts.
No, I don't. There's give and take to all. I don't really know what would be the most superior. I guess that's what like the first UFCs were for, to see like who had the better. You know what I mean? And we all know how that went down. You know, jiu-jitsu, people didn't know how to handle that.
Yeah. I think UFC has the most. I think the wrestlers are the most UFC champions though.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
There's more wrestlers that have UFC championship belts than any other craft, and then third is jiu-jitsu, I think. Or no, second is jiu-jitsu. Third, I think, is Muay Thai.
Wow.
So
yeah,
yeah, it's a good possibility. Like I said, there's pros and cons. So like you have boxing, kickboxing, any form of striking.
Yeah.
All right, those are all great technical things, but they have a downfall because you don't know how to grapple.
Yeah.
If you get put on the ground, your craft is now unable to be utilized. You can't really do much with being a kickboxer on your back. So that's the downfall of striking. But at the same time, if you have fantastic striking and you know how to use that, you can knock people out, you can TKO people, you can hurt people. You know what I mean? So there's a lot more to it. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. Unfortunately, fights start on the feet. You have to be able to get people to the ground.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't get people on the ground, your craft isn't really that usable anymore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, same thing with like striking, like it gives you the ability to submit people, gives you the ability to will people to where you want them, joint locks, chokes, all types of stuff like that. Gives you the ability to end the fight, right? Wrestling gives you the ability to do neither nor, because you can't end the fight with, I mean, you know, you got a bull wrestler that could slap something on. Yeah, maybe they'll finish the fight, but there's no finishing techniques in wrestling. But it gives you that brute mentality to like push and drive and control people. It gives you good control of your hips. It gives you good control, being able to control people and put them where you want them. So that's kind of how my amateur career went, was just me controlling people because I didn't have the finishing skills. And then I'm taking all these fights, you know, 5 fights in 9 months. Like I never had the chance to really learn the skills to like finish people like that. So that was just me going out and taking people down and punching them. So like, do I think wrestling is superior? No, I don't think it's necessarily superior. I think it just gives you better control over people than anything else. And you can wrestle on your feet or you can wrestle on the ground. So it's kind of like you can use it throughout the entire fight, whereas like you can't really use your striking ability, your kickboxing ability on the ground, and you can't really use your I mean, you could, don't get me wrong, you can submit people from the feet 110%, but it's, I don't want to say few and far between. It's not the straight mindset of jiu-jitsu is to submit someone on their feet, you know, or it doesn't give you like these amazing takedown skills the way you would as a wrestler. So like there's give and take to all of it, and that's why it's mixed martial arts, because you got to learn all of it, because that's your best chance at finishing fights. That's your best chance at getting in and getting out. You can't just have one mindset or one craft anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely be like more dominant in one or the other, because you definitely see a lot of that in today's like UFC, where there's somebody who mainly focuses on one art over the other, but they still have a good base of them all to be able to defend themselves in certain areas. But another thing I wanted to ask you is, being that like you have a wrestling background, are you happy with, or do you have any problems with the idea of weight cutting?
I don't mind it. I've been doing it for so long, and I think that's also dependent on the person. If we're talking me, I know how to cut weight. I know what my body can handle. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's a great thing for you to do as a person, but I've been doing it so long that I kind of have it down to a science. But then there's other people that don't cut weight like that, and it's a very detrimental experience to their body. And then maybe you're fighting or you have a competition, and it really diminishes your performance. So it's like you have to know who to cut weight with or who can cut weight, and it all comes down to a science. But like I said, I've been losing weight and doing little cuts since I was in high school. So like, I'm 31 now. It's been 13 years. Like I kind of have it figured out. And over the years, I've played with a couple different things. I know where I can go. Yeah. And, it's all a science, but it's a science that you have to learn in a very painstaking way. Yeah. And sometimes people overdo it, and then it really becomes a problem. Yeah. So,
and I also always thought, like, if weight cutting didn't exist, I think fighters, like the idea that like weight cutting is just like a universal thing, to me, it seems like most fights that you're watching, especially in the UFC, are all done at around like 70 to 75%. Like you're never really watching somebody fight at their full 100% potential.
Yeah, I mean, and realistically, we used to say that, like, if you go into a fight 100%, you didn't do your camp right. Yeah. Like, there's got to be points where you do this hard work, and if you're staying consistent and you're really doing it, like, you could rest hard and recover and do all that other stuff. Yeah. But if you're putting in the work that needs to be put in for a fight camp, then you're usually not 100% going to do that. And, like, I've kind of always know that you have little scrapes and little dings. You have, like, there's a lot to it. But if you're doing, like, 2-a-days and you're, all this other stuff, you're going to get banged up. Yeah. So. As
a fighter, I'd imagine you're probably really never at a full 100%.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to be, but I don't even know what 100% feels like anymore, so I couldn't tell you the last time I was. Yeah.
So how do you make that transition into? Do you have any like actual pro fights under your belt?
Seven pro fights.
So how do you like transition from like an amateur fighter into like taking pro fights and stuff like that? How's that transition?
So when I came up, it was kind of like you had to have so many wins, or I'm not really even sure how it worked, because at that point I was 7-2, I think, when I decided to go pro. And I'd fought most of the guys in the state, and my record was pretty good, and 7-2. So you kind of put in a submission to the state, like, hey, I want to take this pro fight. Yeah. And you get lined up, and then they'll approve you, and then you kind of transition into your pro career.
How is the the local fight scene in this area compared to other areas?
Around here, fighting is not very popular. Like, no, it's not. Like, it's crazy. Because there's more jiu-jitsu schools now have popped up. Yeah. And there's more striking schools. So there's a little bit more in this area that's kind of like starting to take off. But like 10 years ago when I was fighting, there wasn't all these schools. There was Northeast Jiu-Jitsu or Northeast Martial Arts, and there was maybe, I don't think Scranton MMA was even a thing yet. Like, there was only a couple places to go. So this area wasn't very big on like the combat sports aspect. But I started my career, I lived in Williamsport, and it wasn't really big there. But then I started going to American Top Team in Bethlehem, Lehigh Valley. And when I moved out that way, I started seeing, there's this jiu-jitsu school, there's this striking school, American Top Team is out here, there's 10th Planets down the road. Yeah. There was just so many different schools, and then you pop over into Jersey and it's everywhere. It was everywhere. There's so many fight schools out of Jersey and so many jiu-jitsu schools and all these tough guys, and, you start traveling and meeting different people that, and, at that point most of the time, even now, you don't get everything in one gym. It's hard to get everything in one gym. You kind of have to travel. You got to move around. Yeah. So through moving around and meeting people, you kind of like start seeing like, okay, well, this school is here. And then, I see the schools in Pennsylvania, and this school's on the border of Pennsylvania and Jersey, and then Jersey, all these different MMA gyms. Yeah. And I'm like, so I moved, and I was in Jersey at one point, and that's when I started going to David Adiv at Gracie Humaita in Gracie, New Jersey. Yeah, man, and it was just, but I realized coming back to this area, it's not really a thing here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why that is, because you got like your hubs for fighting. See, I was always under the impression it was like the New York and like the California and like the Texas. At least that's like what's really big now. But that surprises me that like PA isn't a big hub for fighting, being that it's like one of the bigger states in our country.
Well, I mean, you go down to Philly, you have boxing is really big there. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu, and like don't get me wrong, it's not so much Pennsylvania in itself. It's just this area. This immediate area is very dry with combat sports. Now, there's schools all over Pennsylvania that are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But, you know, New Jersey, New York, like, and you start looking all over the country, and then it's like culture, man. It's culture. Like, this area grew up on football and, you know, this and that, and that's kind of like, all right, we're cool on that. Yeah, football, it's our thing. We'll take that.
Yeah.
You know, you start moving around, and I go down to Williamsport, and they had a big Philadelphia community because you know, a lot of people had moved from Philadelphia in the 90s up to Williamsport. So now you're seeing boxing pop up in Williamsport. You're seeing all these different striking and martial arts things pop up in Williamsport. So, like, it's culture. Part of it's culture. You know, around here, it's kind of like same people, same thing going on. And you start bringing in people from Philly, and now you got fighting in Williamsport. Now it's in central Pennsylvania. And, you know, I go out to the Lehigh Valley, and there's a big Hispanic community out there. There's Mexican boxing, and you got the Puerto Rican community, and all these other guys, and boxing is so big there. And then, you know, you have jiu-jitsu's just kind of popping up all over the place on top of it. And you see these schools start developing fight teams. Guys say, hey, I want to fight. But that doesn't, I mean, you're seeing it more here now, but it was not like that, you know, a decade ago.
Can you point to like any like individual people that you know of that are like really talented coming up like out of this, I guess you could say, immediate area?
This immediate area here? Yeah, there's a couple tough guys. Like, I'm just getting back into the fight scene, especially around here.
Yeah.
I didn't train around here. I would just travel to New Jersey. Like, that's where I was at. I was like, I'm not even going to train here. I'm just going to go to New Jersey. I'm going to go down the Lehigh Valley. There's a couple guys that are coming up. I'm trying to think. Peyton Phillips. He's a former teammate of mine over at World Class Boxing. He's coming up. He's got a pretty good amateur record right now, and I believe he's fighting in like a month or so. So he's a tough kid. Still a lot to learn, but he's definitely got a lot of potential.
Okay, interesting. Is there any now? What is the fight that you have coming up in November? Is that through any specific promotion?
It's going to be for Maverick MMA. I'm still waiting to hear, though, because I had a guy that was committed, and then he ended up taking a fight for another promotion like the month before. So, like, it's kind of disrespectful because anything can happen. So if I sign my contract and then this kid gets knocked out and he gets a 60-day suspension, guess what? My fight's not happening. Yeah. So why roll the dice on that guy instead of just trying to find someone that's going to commit to that one date?
Yeah.
So, you know, it wasn't that he pulled out of the fight, but, like, we're just like, you know, the promotion's like, we're good. Like, we're not going to take that chance, which is cool. And then, honestly, it's probably the best thing for him because that's just super disrespectful to me. It's kind of like overlooking me. Like, I'm going to take a fight and then I'll fight you. Like,
what's, like, the shadiest shit you ran into in that whole, like, the promotion industry?
Fight business.
Yeah, you hear a lot of, like, shady business and shady deals going on.
You know what? There's so much behind it all. You know, I gave you a pretty good example before. Like, oh, he'll fight you. He said he'd fight you. Like, that's some slimy shit. You know, guys are getting mismatched pays.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stuff. Guys, a lot of promoters or matchmakers will do whatever they have to do to make the fight happen because that's their money on the line. So it's like, you know, they'll run guys around, and there's, like I said, there's so much, like, it's not even like huge things, but it's like little things that you see, and you're kind of like, all right, well, that's slimy, but dude, that's the industry, and that's making money. It's like you're gonna try to give out the least amount of money and make the most back.
So what do you think about that in terms of, like, the fighters putting, like, their mind, body, and all that on the line, but
they're kind of being exploited in a way, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see even, like, with the whole union and the UFC and everything, they wanted to start that up. Like, it does suck, like, but at the end of the day, like, you kind of have to look at it like, you know, we all made this commitment, and we made this choice to put our lives and our bodies and our health and our families and all this other shit on the line. Like, that's a conscious decision that every fighter has to make. So for you to be, and, you know, if you're told, all right, listen, we're going to give you $20K to fight this guy, and like, that's it, and then maybe you get banged the fuck up in the fight, and then, you know, whatever happens, now you're requesting 10,000 more, or like, you know, we don't get paid enough, or this or that. Like, you made that conscious decision to go and fight and to accept those terms. So as far as, like, fighters not getting treated the way they should for what they're doing, I think, I mean, there's money to go around. I don't think the people sitting behind the desk should necessarily be making money hand over fist while the guys that are putting their lives on the line are getting, you know, nickels and dimes. But at the same time, some fighters just got to suck that up. You got to suck it up, bro. Like, that's what you signed up for. That's what you decided you wanted to do. So, like, if you wanted to go out and fight, first off, you should never fight for the money. Yeah, it's a great payout. It's a great, I mean, it's really not that great, but it's like, it's great to get paid to do something you love. And it's like a bunch of money. You get a nice big fat check or whatever the case is. But you shouldn't be doing it for the money. You should be doing it for the love of the sport and for, like, you know, if you're using fighting as a vehicle to try to support yourself in life, it's never going to work out, and you never know when that next fight's going to come. And, like, you know, now you're putting your health on the line. Like, you want to go put your health on the line for nickels and dimes, like, go do some crazy job and actually get some benefits or whatever the case is. And once again, this is all something that I had to learn over the last few years, is like, fighting isn't always going to pay the bills. Like, yeah, that's great. Oh, you made $6,000 at your fight, but you only fight once or twice a year. Spread $6,000 out over a whole year.
Yeah, it's not looking too good.
Pennies on the dollar, or whatever the hell those old people be saying.
That's funny as hell.
Yeah. But how do people that fight, like, can you not get paid as an amateur?
You make money off of your ticket sales.
As an amateur?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's about it. They'll give you a percentage. So if you don't sell, you don't get anything. You're literally in it for the love of the game.
Same thing with pros?
No, pros get a pay. They get show money and then win money if you win. So,
okay.
Yeah, you get money to come, weigh in, get all of that jazz done. That's half of your pay. And then if you win the fight, you get the other half. If not, you just get the straight pay for the show money.
Interesting.
So it's yeah, man. And that's the other thing is, like, now you got to fight. You know, you just got to show up for half of your paycheck. You put all this work in, but now you got to fight and win to get the other half. So it's like, it's a very up and down career. And that's why, like, you can't take it half-assedly. Like, you really have to have the ability to train all the time. And then with that comes the fact that you can't work all the time. You can't do this all the time. So it's very much like a vagabond, just I'm trying to make it by lifestyle. And that's like more so the lifestyle as an amateur will make or break you, because, like, you can't, and you're not even getting paid to take these fights. So now you really have to find a way to have this income. And, you know, how bad do you want it? That's why, you know, most guys don't make it to pro, because, like, you have to put that time and work in, and then you really, like, you have to treat it like a career. You can't go and have a whole other, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of guys that work 9 to 5s that can do it.
Yeah, I hear about that often. Like, a lot of up and coming fighters working, like, regular 9 to 5 jobs while going to the gym, training, eating properly, and all that. And
it's tough, man. It's like I said, you really have to. Most fighters probably should not have girlfriends or, like, significant others or families, because realistically, like, if you're going to do everything right, you kind of have to be self-centered and selfish and just.
It's a blessing and a curse. I mean, you also hear a lot of fighters talking about during camps, like, they won't be around their friends, family, significant others, or anything at all.
You have to turn into a different person. There has to be a switch that, like, and it's nothing against the people around you, but, like, you kind of have to, like we were talking about, like, being the primitive man, being, like, you have to go into that primal sense where it's like, I need to eat, sleep, and kill. Like, that's it.
And when you're around, my life. When you're around people you love, like, it sucks, but I mean, it's a good reality when you're not a fighter, but most of the time you just want to have fun and enjoy the time with the people that you love. You're not necessarily in that just killer be killed mindset.
And so, and a lot of people can do it. Like, you know, I did it for years, where you kind of, like, but at the same time tensions rise, and then you start getting nervous, and, like, there's certain, like, you know, it takes a certain significant other or, like, set of family members to understand what it is you're kind of going through during that point. It's kind of like you just have to back off and pump the brakes and just, like, let that fighter or let that person do their thing, because some people handle it differently. Some people can go to the gym and let it all out and come home and just be totally normal, and some people have to, like, live that life 24/7.
Would you ever get with a significant other that was also a fighter?
I have, and it was a very bad idea.
Really?
Why?
It was a bad idea. It was cool at first, but once again, you kind of have to be self-centered and selfish. And, like, you have two people that are trying to chase their careers. And it's like, oh, support me. And it's like, no, I'm supporting me. And, like, it becomes very twisted, and just, you know, it has to be like an A and B. You can't have A and A, because it's like,
I see a duality to it. Like,
like, it's too hard to, like, because you, as a fighter, I'm the alpha. I'm the one. You know what I mean? And then
you think it's like a masculine and feminine thing?
It could be. I don't know, but it was decent. It wasn't a terrible relationship. We just obviously had our differences. And she was cool. She was a cool chick, but I don't think it's easy to date another fighter. I think that it's very much so like, yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, kind of going back to the whole, like the money you make off winning a fight. How do you feel about like a big majority of like a win purse going to somebody who say may have won via split decision that you didn't agree with?
You're saying like a high stakes fight, like
I mean, it's very prevalent in the UFC. You hear people talking about that all the time, like fights in which they felt they won, but obviously lost, like to split decision, and then had to forfeit, obviously, that extra win bonus. Yeah.
I mean, that's the game.
Yeah, it's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game, man. It sucks. It's a heartbreaker, obviously, and for some guys, like who it is their actual career, that is their main source of income. Yeah, that's a big blow. Yeah, it's a huge blow to their to them and their career and their lifestyle and their household and all that other stuff. Yeah. So, but it's the name of the game. Yeah,
bro. I wish more fighters would get into the like the reffing of fights and competitions like that. A lot of people just commission like referees through the states that the promotions are involved in.
Trust me, don't we all?
Yeah.
We all do. I wish that we had fighters that were more current, that knew the game, and were still reffing. Like, that would be awesome because you really wouldn't have half the buffs that you do.
Yeah.
But, you know, now you're taking someone who's, you know, oh, well, I owned a boxing gym 20 years ago, but you're judging MMA, you're fighting MMA, you're reffing MMA. It's like, there's going to be bias there. There's going to be one-sidedness there. And, like, even with judging, you know, this guy, Larry, was with the boxing commission for 20 years. And, okay, well, that's cool. But, like, so that means Larry's going to be very, heavy on the striking.
Boxing favorite.
Yeah. So, like, you know, or this guy was a wrestler for 40 years. You know, he won a state title. So, like, this guy's going to love takedowns. Yeah. He's going to love control. And, you know, so there's, like, I wish there was more fighters that would get into it, but fighters just want to fight.
Yeah.
So
we're just like a clearer like rule set of what exactly we're judging fights off of, because I don't think that they really go too in depth with that either.
I think they've laid it out, but I don't think that most like judges really look over. You know, they kind of, just like any other human would, they're just going to kind of look at the fight and judge it from what they see. Yeah. They're not really like, oh, this guy's got cage control and this guy, you know, he's landing, you know. And that's when you see, like, the fight metric reports come out, and it's like, yo, this guy actually landed, like, 80 more shots, but he lost the fight. Like, doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like, that's cool, but, you know, the fight metric didn't judge the fight. A human did.
It's interesting. I have to run and pee quick, though. So
I got a question for you. So you fought your first 7 fights, you were 7-0, right?
Yeah.
So did you develop, like, a complex those first 7 fights and, like, I'm unbeatable, and then...
I thought I was a shit.
Yeah.
110% I thought I was a shit. I was like, oh my God, no one could stop me. Like, I'm tearing through the scene.
Yeah.
And then I got a piece of humble pie. I went down.
Your 8th fight.
Yeah. I went down to Philly and I fought at Harrah's in Chester, and I fought a guy named Mike Jenkins at 205. And, you know, we had a battle, man. I was beating him up pretty good the first round. Second round, he caught me in something. He was a jiu-jitsu guy. He was in the Army. Combatives expert, like all this stuff, like he knew his stuff. Caught me in something I couldn't get out of, and he kind of just, you know, I would give him the second round, I would say off of control and just whatever, but like he didn't do anything prevalent. In the third round, I landed a couple good shots on the feet, and then I took a bad shot, and he kind of had me tied up in a really bad spot. Looked like he was going to submit me, and then I popped out of it, and I think the last minute I was on top of him, just hammering down, and I lost a split decision.
Do you think you won the fight, or do you think
110%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
110%. It was a good fight. It was definitely more like, you could be like, oh man, I really don't know who won. But when I went back and watched the fight myself, and I mean, you know, obviously I'm going to be biased, watch myself and see what I did. But I think realistically, if you judge it from the way it should be judged, you know, I had a good exchange in that third, you know, we'll go 1-1 in the third round. I had a good exchange on the feet, and then he had me tied up for like 45 seconds, and then I was out for the last minute just beating him up. So it's like, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if I was judging it and it wasn't me, but I can't really look at it without bias because it's me.
So because you believe you won the fight, was that like a real low for you, or were you just like, oh, this is bullshit? Like,
at the end of the day, there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do as far as the loss. So I just kind of had to eat it. But that was my piece of humble pie. That was my first piece of humble pie. And then my second piece actually came in my last amateur fight. I lost my last amateur fight. I fought another tough guy named Basel Hafez.
It's an interesting name.
Kid's a stud, yeah. Kid's an absolute stud. But me and him in the first round, we go back and forth with just crazy striking exchanges. I think he cracked me in the chest. I took like a crazy shot. I picked him up over my head. He like dropped down. Dude, we went through this crazy exchange for like 2.5 minutes. It was insane. Probably one of the best, probably the craziest round I've ever fought in a fight. In the second round, I came out, I was absolutely winded because of it. And he cracked me again. I took a nice double leg shot, and he kind of had me in a guillotine. And after I posted out, he just put me in a triangle, and he legitimately submitted me, and it was a title fight. And I was
man.
So that was my larger piece. That was the rest of the pie. You know, I had a piece on that first loss, and then I got the rest of the pie for that one.
So it was a 2-loss streak.
No, I'd won one more fight in between.
Okay, gotcha.
So maybe it was I was 6-0, and then I lost, and then I beat the big buffoon again, 7-1, and then I lost my last amateur fight.
Gotcha.
So
damn. So how was that? Like, what was life like after that fight? Where it was like clear you lost, and
I was upset, but you know, I had taken all these fights within like 2 years, man. Like I had like 9 amateur fights in like 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
That was wild. It was a crazy time in my life. But you know, that made me sit back and really like, let's do this right. So then I ended up having like a 1.5 year layoff, and I was looking for fights the whole time when I wanted to go pro. But I ended up having like this 1.5 year, almost 2 year layoff. And I came back as a pro, and, you know, they're talking in the interviews about cage rust and just, you know, all this other stuff, and maybe felt it for like the first 30 seconds of the fight, and then I brought the house down on this kid, dude. I just freaking beat him up for 3 rounds, and the end of the third round, I mounted him and just kept punching him in the face until they stopped it. Like, I was like, all right, I'm good to go. And then I took some more time, and then I had probably the worst loss of my career.
And how'd that go?
So
only 3 in your career, right?
As a pro, I have 3 losses.
Okay.
2 as an amateur.
Okay.
So after my pro debut, I won. I was on a card with all my buddies. We ended up going down to the Hub, American Top Team in Florida.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome, bro. Like talking about working with like Masvidal and all
these
other guys.
Really?
All these big name. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's sick.
Like I rolled with Masvidal, smothered me. He like absolutely waterboarded me in his sweat drenched shirt from the mount.
Really?
I've sparred with Colby Covington. I've wrestled with King Mo.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's wild. You gotta touch back on that.
Yeah, it's crazy. The places that fighting will take you, man. It's pretty wild. But then you find out all these other big names that you're talking to. There's normal guys.
Yeah.
There's normal guys that train and just do the same shit.
Yeah.
You just see them on TV. But we went down to American Top Team, and we did like probably like 4 days down there, and that was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So we went back down again.
Yeah.
I think on Easter of this, like the next year. And we had fights coming up. I think I was fighting in the end of April, and I was down in Florida, and I get a call from the promoter. And this time now we're at the new American Top Team that you see on TV. There's dorms upstairs. The place is freaking huge. There's a smoothie bar downstairs.
Sick,
cycling, all types of shit out there, bro. It's insane.
Wow.
Like multi-million-dollar facility.
Wow.
But yeah, I went down there, and I got a phone call, and I think we were down there for like 2 weeks maybe we went. Yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks, and I think like a weekend I got a phone call that the guy I was supposed to fight for my second pro fight pulled out or something happened. He got an injury, whatever the case was. So they're scrambling, looking for someone. So finally they throw me this name, Bavon Lewis. He was out of American Top Team Gwinnett, Georgia.
Yeah.
So now it's like I fight for American Top Team like Steel City, which is the Lehigh Valley, and this kid fights for American Top Team Gwinnett. I'm like, this is really wacky. So like they literally had me go and ask like the head of American Top Team. They're like, well, you know, is this going to be a problem if like we take this fight? And he's like, well, no, you guys aren't in the same school, are you? I said, no. He's like, is he here right now? I said, no. He's like, then you're good. So took the fight. Big mistake. Big mistake.
How so?
Biggest mistake. So this dude was pretty much built like a 185-pound version of John Jones. He's like he's like 6'4". He had this big head on him. And then here it was, like, he didn't have a lot of footage or anything, so I'm trying to, like, figure this kid out, like, while I'm down in Florida, and I'm like, you know, screw it, bro. I'm working with the best guys in the world, and I'm in great shape. I'm losing weight, all of this stuff, dude. Like, everything was just so on point. It was probably the best camp I've ever had in my career. So I get back up there, and this kid comes in, and I see him, and I'm literally looking up at him like this at the weigh, and I'm like, all right, well, he doesn't have any legs on. He's got these little chicken legs. Legs look like this. I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to kick those off. Nope. Couldn't get near him. This kid's striking was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Elbows, knees, kicks, head kicks, this and that. So finally I closed the distance on him. I shot in and I got this kid. I locked my hands. Underneath his hips.
Yeah.
And like, as a wrestler, I know when I got you. Like, I know when I got you. So I'm like, oh, I got him. Bro, I lifted this kid up, and I was fully extended up on my toes, and I looked down, and this kid's feet are still on the floor.
Oh, my God.
This kid's feet were on the floor. So at this point now in the fight, I go into desperation mode. I'm throwing high kick, spinning wheel kick. I look like when you're jamming the buttons on a video game. That's what my striking looked like. I was literally just throwing anything in the kitchen sink, trying to hit this kid, trying to just do whatever I could. And this kid just methodically and calculated every move that he did, and it just, my nose is still broken because of him. There's a big gash under my headband right here. Yeah. That, literally, that's from an elbow that he threw.
Oh, my God.
I think I counted it in the fight. I think he landed 32 elbows and knees combined.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, combined. So that was the only fight I've ever been actually TKO'd in. The referee stopped it with probably a minute and 13 or something left in the round. But at this point, this kid had kneed me in the face. It dropped me. It was just, that was not even just humble pie. That was just an ass whooping. Wasn't even a learning experience. I just got fucking smoked, man. And, hats off to him. I think he took another fight outside of the UFC, and then he was on the Contender Series. I think he fought 2 fights in the Contender Series and knocked both the guys out, and then he went to the UFC, and there was a card. There's one specifically I can remember. He fought on New Year's Eve a couple years back. He was fighting Uriah Hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's taking it to Uriah Hall for 2.5 rounds, bro. He's fucking smoking him. Just beating the crap. I'm like, oh, my God, bro. I fought this guy.
Yeah.
He's beating Uriah Hall right now.
That's insane.
And then, it's coming towards the end of the fight, and Homeboy jumps in with a flying knee, and Uriah Hall throws this right hook that comes right across the jaw and stiffens my dude up in the fetal position. And I said, no. I'm like, oh, my God, that was my segue coattail ride to glory. I fought a dude that beat Uriah Hall. And Uriah Hall starched him with 2 minutes left in the fight.
Damn.
Damn. But he was beating him the whole fight, bro. It was crazy. So, hats off to him. So that was my first pro loss. Dude that ended up going to the UFC and almost beating Uriah Hall.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy. And then I came back and I fought another guy. I TKO'd him. Doctor stopped it. I kicked him in the head 4 times, and he had a bunch of cuts.
Yep.
So that was cool. And then I had a title fight. Fought a guy named Joey Angelo. And we had a pretty good fight. I think it came down to 29-28. He beat me. It was good. I got off to a slow start, but the fight really got interesting after that. And he ended up going off and doing the bare knuckle scene, and he was 3 or 4-0 in the bare knuckle scene. I think he just lost recently.
What do you think of that shit? The bare knuckle stuff. That shit freaks me out, man.
Same thing I'm gonna say when I was just wrestling and someone was like, "You want to try MMA?" No, I'm not getting punched in the face with bare knuckle. Now I can't take you down. Absolutely not. No. What do I think about it for those people? I think it's for fighters that really just don't give a shit, that are maybe at the tail end of their career, that just want another outlet. I think that's maybe, but maybe, maybe some people, that's people's bread and butter. I don't know. Everybody's different. So what do I think about it? Hats off to those guys, but you ain't going to catch me.
It's coming up pretty big right now too.
It's huge.
I can't name anybody off the top of my head, but there's a lot of even ex-UFC fighters and ex-Bellator fighters and whatnot transitioning into doing that.
And now, but it also comes back down to pop culture and just being people and the whole primitive being. People want, realistically, if in bare knuckle they wrap their hands and everything, but realistically, if you can give people any type of legal violence, they're gonna watch, they're gonna gravitate towards it. So it's oh, hey, it's like MMA except less pads, and people are like, oh my God, it's yo, people get cut open all the time. Oh really? Yeah, let's go watch that. That's crazy awesome. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, they're gonna be watching knife fights.
Oh my God.
Yeah, unguarded knife fights.
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in our fucking culture we transition into some shit like that, going back to sword
gladiator
fights
times.
Yeah, people love it. And take it back that far. Like you said, gladiators, man, the arena, all that, the Coliseum, you know, people love violence. They do. They love it.
Yeah.
It's
I wonder
crazy.
why.
Sick ass culture.
Yeah.
Sick, not even culture, just a sick being.
We're sick.
Species.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we are.
We love violence. We love like crazy shit. And like people eat it up. Look at the internet, man. Like you could watch a video of like puppies and kittens and stuff and they're just sitting around. Or you could watch somebody getting like their head cut off. And what do you think most people are going to watch?
I wonder psychologically what causes that though. Because it seems since like the dawn of time, people enjoyed gathering together with friends and family and whoever and sitting in the stands and watching two people just go at it until the brink of death.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just in our core, which is pretty sickening when you really think about it. Like we're really just, but at the same time, like, you know, I enjoy it. So
yeah,
it.
I guess you're
a practitioner in this.
Yeah, man. I like to do these things, but make them look really like professional and just like this isn't that bad. Watch how I strangle you. Like But no, there's an art form behind it, but as far as people just enjoying violence, there's no art form behind that. We're just sick people.
Oh man! So wait, bringing it back a little bit. So you were saying you rolled with Masvidal, you were sparring with Colby Covington and whatnot. What is it like from a fighter in like to your degree, seeing like the level of fighter that there is out there in the world, like these people, Colby Covington making multiple championship title fights in the UFC and stuff like that. Like, what is viewing that level with your own eyes, like seeing somebody in that?
Just being immersed in that whole gym was like insane because you're just around people that like, as an amateur fighter, you're hearing about them. You're like, oh my god, like I want to be like that guy. And you know, the next thing you know, he's rolling right next to you. Yeah. Like, so like it's a bit of a shock when you first go down there. And I remember one of the younger guys with us, like we were out one night, out on the town, and this is back when like Black Zillions and American Top Team were like going back and forth. Yeah. This big war and everything. And this fighter, Tyrone Spong, comes walking down the sidewalk, and this dude's like K1 kickboxer, legend, like dude, glory, all this stuff. Like he's one of the best kickboxers in the world. And our buddy Ronnie just starts walking towards him, and he's like going for an autograph, and we had to grab him. We're like, yo, like, you know what I mean? So like you're starstruck when you're there, but at the same time, you have to realize like there's people, there's certain things going on that like you kind of have to like play with. You have to play by the rules. So, you know, good example, like if you know who Hector Lombard is, like he straight up I've never been knocked out cold, but that dude shut the lights off for probably as long as anyone has. Yeah. You know, me and him were sparring, and he just nailed me with a left hook that just sent me in the next week. And like literally my MMA coach literally had to drag me off the mat because he was about to follow up on me, and I was like, yeah, it was bad. Probably concussed and just completely jacked up. That was the hardest I've ever been hit. But like, that's cool. Like, yo, this guy's my idol. Oh my God, he's this great fighter. And next thing you know, he's smashing you in the face. So it's kind of like, okay, these are regular guys, and they're here to train. They're not here to be like your idol. They're not, you know. So to see that level of stuff, like it's crazy. But once again, they're all just regular people. Some guys are gifted. Some guys put in the extra work and so. But you know, sometimes it's really not. It's that much. It's that little thing that pushes guys over to that next level. So like, they're not any different than most of the guys you see coming up now. They're just further in their career where they have it figured out. Yeah.
Does anything like worry you about like the potential future health complications you could have due to your career choice?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, it's, you know, I'm still dealing with it now as far as like my neck and everything goes. Yeah. Like, it's like, you know, if something bad happens, I could lose feeling or use of my arm or like any of this crazy stuff. So once again, it's a sacrifice you make for the love of the game. It's not so much like, you know, I'm not going to worry about it now. I know there's going to be problems down the road. I know, you know, you kind of have that in the back of your mind as a fighter. Yeah, like I'm going to be banged up when I get older. I used to joke about it when I was in my mid-20s, like, oh my God, I'm going to be so banged up by the time I'm 40, like whatever, you know, or like, you know, I'm 25, but I wake up feeling 50. Like that becomes real. And at this point, I'm old enough to know, like, take care of your brain, take care of your body. Yeah. Like, you know, bones will break. You know, little things will happen, but as far as your brain goes, like, you really have to like keep a check on that because you can't, you know, you only get one. You can't, you know, you're not replacing your brain. Nah. You know, once that starts to slip, so it's all cool and dandy now at 25, 30, 35, but like what happens when you're 60 and you can't remember shit? Yeah. You know, I'm already like that. I'm only 31. I can't remember shit. I just lost my keys the other day for 3 days. It was like insane. So it's like, yeah, man, you know, is it CTE or am I forgetful? Is it, you know, have I been hit in the head too many times? Like, so there's worries about it, but at the same time, like, I enjoy what I do. And realistically, I stepped away from all this for 3 years, and it was tough, man. And it wasn't that I did it because anybody else wanted me to, but like I was just kind of on to the other endeavors. And now I'm back, and honestly, I just feel I'm so happy, and this is what makes my heart beat. Like this is what kind of makes me feel alive. So it's more so like, you know, if you're not doing something that you love, then like that's probably one of the biggest problems in life. And you know, you got to figure it out and figure out how to make it work. But like realistically, you should never step away from something you love, because it's just like you're doing yourself a disservice.
Absolutely. So being as that, you said you're 31 now, right?
Yeah.
So you're approaching like that, with like the 35-year-old age range that they say is like the peak age to be a fighter. Is there anything else that like what do you see your window being? Like when do you want to get out? If that's even a thought for you. And like, is there anything else that like has your interest a lot that you'd love to be involved in once fighting isn't an option for you anymore? Yeah,
there's a lot to it. So as far as fight, like realistically, and I got that phone call that I was never going to fight again, like that kind of had to weigh on me, and like I had to accept it and be like, all right, this is it, bro. Like you're not doing this anymore. Maybe coaching is the next thing for you. And then it was kind of like I sat and I waited and I thought, and I was like, man, maybe I just want to get one more, maybe just one more. Yeah. But you know, they always say like, you know, you say this is the last one, or I just want to do one more. You're already kind of 1 foot out the door, and that's. I would never suggest to anyone that you fight like that. Like if you already announced your retirement fight, you should have been done the last fight, because you're 1 foot out, and that's how people end up getting hurt. So like, it was kind of like, oh, I want to take one more. And then I was like, no, I'm really going to commit to it. And, you know, I had some other back chatter that was going on that was kind of preventing me from like jumping back in. Yeah. And, which it wasn't bad back chatter. It was just very like, you know, I would hear it all the time and then really second guess what I'm doing and this and that. And I started rolling again and getting everything ready. And now I'm kind of like, take this super fight, and I'm going to do my grappling thing, and then I'm going to jump into the fights, and I'm just going to see what happens. I'm leaving the door open as far as everything goes, but I don't have any specific plans. Like, do I want to be done by 35? Do I just want to get like 3 more fights? I'm just going to roll with how my body feels and how everything else works in my life right now, because I'm kind of like at a point where I have several different options or paths that I can follow. Yeah. And they're all going to lead back to almost the same thing, but at the same time, it's just kind of where do I go and how do I go about it? Yeah. So I'm just going to let it go. Like, I'm not planning on fighting now and then fighting the beginning of the year like I used to, or like try to plan my stuff out. It's just like one fight at a time, one day at a time. Just roll with it. Just kind of see how it goes. Because like, who knows? I could be rolling next week and then my neck goes, or you know, I break a hand, or, you know, whatever the case is. So like, this is one of those unpredictable things that kind of like, you know, fighting's awesome, but it's so unpredictable.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So is there anything else like besides fighting that like really calls you out? Like, just say outside of fighting, like what else do you really enjoy?
I love training people. I love being in the gym. Okay. Like I'm in love with fighting, not just doing it, but as far as like teaching it, showing people. Like, I'm not the greatest striker in the world, but I love teaching kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, any of that stuff. I love, you know, I coached wrestling last year for Pleasant Valley Middle School. Like, I was the head coach for junior high. So like, I enjoy giving back to the community, as long as people are willing to accept it. Like, you know, you want to learn how to wrestle, I'll teach you. You want to learn how to strike, I'll teach you. I love you know, I went to school for personal training, so like I do personal train people. Yeah. And that makes me happy. I love seeing like results and stuff. And then also like now I'm working with a landscape company around here, and I've been into plants for a while, but now like I really enjoy them. So part of me wants to go back to school for like botany.
Pretty cool.
Damn, man, that's cool.
Or for something like working with plants, because that's something that's very calming to me as well. As much as I love the chaos of like fighting and wrestling and all that, and that is calming. That was calm in that chaos for me. I do enjoy like working with just anything outdoors. Realistically, the plants kind of really catch my attention.
That's interesting. Like, why is that? What do you think calls you to that? Like, just nature in general? Are you saying like you like the outdoors?
I've always liked being outside. I like animals. I like all this other stuff. But like plant, you know, there's so many different plants, and now I work with them, and it's kind of like interesting to me. Yeah. To see how like different things work. There's a lot of things that I really do enjoy. But it just depends on what route I go. Like at one point, I wanted to open my own gym, and maybe that's still an option, but not at the current moment. So it's kind of like, you know, at what point do I start looking at like settling out of the fight career? Do I use my fight career to continue a career of something else? Do I open a gym? Do I teach this? So there's a lot of options. It's just, there's no sure path for me yet.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I guess you really do just got to continue the journey and like see what happens in the future. But it does seem as though a lot of fighters can always like at least stay in that field. Just like you were saying, a lot of fighters end up transitioning into some kind of coaching or some kind of like rehabilitation for fighters and stuff like that, which is, I also think is really cool. Any way that you could stay in that field and keep you fired up and keep you like energized as you were when you were fighting, I think that that's amazing if you could find something like that out. Would you ever get into like say for yourself, we were just talking earlier about like maybe judging or anything like that. Would that be something that you'd be interested in?
Yes and no. That's kind of like a side gig. Almost like, it's not something you really make a career out of.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I wouldn't be against it or even reffing at some point, but that's something I would look at in like probably like my 40s and whatnot when I'm really not doing anything. And at that point I would probably just want to own a gym. So it all depends on how that goes. Yeah. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. I love fighting. I love watching it. I think it's fun to be there in person and watch and get that little adrenaline dump and get all hyped up. But I don't know. I don't know which way the wind blows for me as far as like fighting and taking this into the future.
The reason I ask is because I was always curious how you transition like one of the most intense things like a human could do into like what you do after that. Because like it seems like there's not really much in the world that can match up to like, I guess, the energy and the adrenaline that like fighting brings, or just like that lifestyle in general. There's not much that compared to it.
There isn't a lot, and that's kind of like, when I stepped away from fighting, like I was working at Chewy in a warehouse. Yeah. And it was like, this is what regular people do.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Like 9-10 hours a day. And I'm just like, like not for nothing. Like it was a good job. It was cool. It was very straightforward. Good hours, good money, whatever the case was. But I didn't feel like free, man. Yeah. I felt very just like in a world of color that I was living in, like everyone just kind of was black and white. And it was like, this is just, it was very like, I just felt like I stood out. I felt different from everybody else. And it's just like, it's regular people, but like I just lived this crazy life where I'm traveling and I'm fighting people and I'm training, I'm meeting all these different people and this famous person. And, I just went down to American Top Team and, we were just in California and this dude, we're at this UFC. And then like, all of a sudden now I'm driving a forklift and I'm putting away dog food for 10 hours a day. And I'm like, I can't even do this shit. And like at the same time, like, I love being outside. I've always kind of done lawn care or landscaping or whatever the case is. So now I'm in a warehouse going up and down the same aisles for 10 hours, 4 days a week. It became too much for me. So then I transitioned to being back outside. But income and financially and just, benefits and all the other things that I needed from not fighting and just kind of working at my future, like it didn't have that. It was great. I loved the job. It was awesome. I was cutting trees down. And then I tried to just double down and do both. I was like, I'm just going to be a working man. Like, I don't fight anymore. I'm not training anymore. I'm just going to work. So, dude, I was working both jobs, and I was working, like, sleeping 3 hours a night. And it was just absolutely, dude, I was so miserable. Yeah. I was just so miserable. And, it took its toll on me. And then, finally now I got this new job that I'm working, and I'm outside, and I get to, like, I'm talking about going to school for botany or like going back to school for like some kind of like, just working with plants or outdoors. And now like I get to do that all day, every day for work. And it's like, I have to go to school for it. I don't have to do anything and I get paid like, so it's awesome. So now I'm kind of ironing out my schedule, or I've ironed it out to the point where now I can train. Now I can train like consistently. Yeah. I can get back on that horse, and it's not so much as hard as it would be as an amateur where you have to like learn and get in shape and like do all this stuff. It's not that there's always something for a martial artist to learn or for a fighter to learn, but I'm to a point where I can go out and take a fight and get through that fight successfully and safely without putting in the insane amount of hours in a fight camp. All I have to do is get in good shape, touch up my skills, learn a few things, work on a couple things. Whereas like, an amateur fighter has to like, you're still learning how to throw punches. You're still learning how to stay out of danger. And you're always going to be learning that, but I'm to the point now where I can fight regionally and like be okay. Yeah. So, that's kind of where I'm at, man. Like I just kind of know that I'm going to put some work in right now. I'm going to try to get myself back on the mats, doing this grappling match and everything. So that'll be a good, like, dip my toes in the water. Yeah. This kid's tough. And I'm just going to roll with the punches,
Well, that's sick, man. What are you thinking?
It's cool, man.
Good there?
It's awesome. Yes, sir.
Well, hey, man, awesome. I mean, this was a great time, great conversation. We appreciate you, having us here. Shout out to the Woodlands, though, like we said earlier, for giving us the opportunity to, secure this room for free. They're really looking out for us. And, Yeah, man, it was a great time. Tell the people where they could, find your social medias, where they can, maybe buy tickets to future events or anything like that. Just, anything you have with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of my social media attention probably comes from my Instagram. So that's Badger_Gracie, GRACIE, and then NJ at the end.
Okay.
So Badger Gracie, New Jersey. That's probably the easiest place to find me. All my other links are on there. So if you guys want to find me on Facebook or anything, go to my Instagram, click the link, and you can catch me there.
And they can find out about all the promotions and upcoming fights and stuff like that on your Instagram.
All my stuff. Anytime I have online links for tickets or links for pay-per-view or whatever the case is, all that stuff will be ran through my social media.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Badger.
Nice having you, man.
Appreciate it, dude.
That's love.
Thank you.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.